Hi, this is Dr. Fab. I'm a physician and I'm post-call. So I just did a video about 38 minutes long, and for some reason the voice could not be, relayed. So I'm having to do this again. It's important. I'm at the City of Phoenix Hall and I'm doing a live protest against the Indian aggression and Indian hegemonic agenda that is disrupting the peace in the Southeast Asia, and that is committing a genocide of the Pakistani minorities in India's proxy attacks against the Pakistani Christians, against the Pakistani Hazara community, and Indian aggressive tactics, hate crimes against its own minorities, including the Dalits, including the Sikhs, the Bengalis, including the Christians in India that are currently suffering from the hate crimes of the fascist regime of Modi. And I'm doing this live protest against India and its proxy war that is abusing Afghanistan as its proxy ground in its war against Pakistan. Why am I talking to the Americans about this? Because the leaders of US are not interested in peace. Neither is the media, nor are even some of the humanitarian agencies. Nobody is talking about the effects of the proxy attacks of India against Pakistan, abusing the land of Afghanistan as a proxy ground to advance its vicious agenda against Pakistan that is jeopardizing the lives of the American Marines currently stranded in Afghanistan, not able to exit safely because India is playing its coward games. If you don't believe me, you don't have to believe me. Listen to Chuck Hagel, who is an award-winning American politician who publicly said this, that India is financing terrorism on the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan. If you don't believe me, you don't have to take my word for it. Don't believe me. Just Google Kulbhushan Yadav and you will see that he is the raw agent who was caught red-handed. By the way, if you don't know what RAW is the intelligence agency of India. So Kulbhushan Yadav was the raw agent that was caught red-handed at the border of Pakistan and Iran, trying to enact acts of terrorism against the Pakistani minorities, and he's made a public confession on public television that's all over the internet. All you have to do is Google Kulbhushan Yadav. If you want peace, you won't get it sitting in your lazy couches. Peace is not the fairy that's gonna fly over to you from the sky while you're sitting in your lazy couches, hoping, looking up to your corrupt government, to your corrupt leaders, to your sponsored media, even to your sponsored humanitarians. You have to get up from your lazy couches and you have to work for peace. You have to ask your government to stop India's hegemonic agenda in the region that is not just killing every non-Hindu within India. It is also waging a proxy war against the minorities in Pakistan that have been confirmed by the raw agent Kulbhushan Yadav, who has publicly said that RAW appointed him to sponsor terrorism, to fund terrorist factions, violent terrorist factions against Pakistani minorities, including the Pakistani Christians, including the Hazara community that was just the other day brutally massacred in Balochistan. Please get up your lazy couch and ask your government, why isn't it stopping India from its heinous war crimes in Kashmir against the Kashmiris? We have Yasin Malik, who's a peaceful activist, who's currently stranded in the detention cell of Indian government because he tried to ask for the right of self-determination of Kashmiris that was given to the Kashmiris by the United Nations. Nobody's talking about Yasin Malik. Everybody was talking about Jamal Khashoggi, but nobody wants to talk about Yasin Malik. Why? He has not even killed a cockroach. He is a totally peaceful activist of Kashmir. His only crime was that he peacefully asked the Indian government to give the Kashmiris their right of self-determination that the United Nations has already guaranteed to them in the form of a free plebiscite, a fair plebiscite for the Kashmiris. That was his only crime. And now he's on his deathbed. He's in a critical condition, and no one on the US media is talking about him. No one amongst your leaders is talking about him. He's going to die in a few days, and when he's going to die, then you'll wake up and get up your lazy couches. But guess what? By that time, his death would bring another vicious cycle of aggression, of destabilization, of restlessness. So time to act is right now. He's a poor Kashmiri activist standing against the persecution, against the oppression of Kashmiris in Kashmir, and is currently detained by the Indian Army only because he asks peacefully for the right of self-determination of Kashmiris that's given to them by the United Nations. So your silence is your consent to the ongoing detention of this one guy who has stood as a symbol of peaceful resistance against Indian Army's persecution, against Indian Army's war crimes in Kashmir. Please talk to your officials about him. Please try to get him released. Please put economic pressure upon India to release Yasin Malik, to give the Kashmiris their right of self-determination, to conduct the fair plebiscite within Kashmir that will give the Kashmiris their freedom in light of the UN Charter, in light of the UN Geneva Conventions. I'm telling you, you're not going to get peace sitting in your lazy couches. This is not a mathematical algebra equation that you can solve sitting at your desk. You have to get up like I am. I'm post-call, I'm a physician. I had a busy night, but I'm still standing over here because I want a peaceful world for my children. If you want peace, you have to work for it. Don't depend upon your government, your corrupt government, to give you the peace that you want. You're not even going to have a viable earth if you let your government decide everything. You have to take matters in your own hands. You have the civil rights, the liberty to be able to ask your government to stop India from putting the lives of US Marines in danger by playing its coward, dirty games on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border that is making this war against terrorism perpetual, that is jeopardizing the lives of US Marines, that is making their exit next to impossible, that's going to make and cause this war to go on forever at the cost of your economy, at the cost of your Marines' lives. So if you want peace in Afghanistan, you have to stop India from abusing Afghanistan as its proxy ground against Pakistan. If you want peace in Afghanistan, you have to tell Modi to give up his agenda of Akhand Bharat Hindutva, where there is no room for a non-Hindu. You know how the fascist fanatic BJP sponsored and RSS funded groups are treating the Indian Christians? Do you know how they're treating the Indian Muslims? They are lynching them alive. I'm going to repeat. The fascist, the fanatic, RSS funded and BJP sponsored groups in India are lynching the minorities alive. They are doing forceful conversions of Christians. And Modi is on the verge of passing a bill, doing a constitutional amendment that is going to make all non-Hindus non-citizens of India, which means if you want to be a citizen in India, you have to convert to Hinduism. And this is happening right under your noses with the consent of your government, with the consent of your media that refuses to talk about it, that refuses to educate you, to let you know about what's going on at the other end of the world. Why this $6 trillion war is not ending? Because Chuck Hagel said that India is playing its dirty games on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, financing terrorism, funding terrorist factions against Pakistan to achieve its proxy ambitions, killing innocent civilians in Pakistan that are Pakistani Christians, killing Pakistani Hazara community, that's a minority, killing the Afghans, jeopardizing the lives of US Marines, and forcing you to continue with this very, very expensive war that's already cost you $6 trillion and that's already cost you so many lives of your US Marines. So you have every national interest in trying to stop the proxy attacks of India in the region, not just in the name of humanity, but in the name of your own national interests. And above all, if you still want to have that fairy of peace come to you, you got to get up from your lazy couches and try to do something about it. I'm post-call, I'm pre-call, I have a call tonight and I'm literally over here because this is getting very serious. We have this poor political, peaceful activist who's currently detained by India, who's never even killed a cockroach, never picked up a weapon, never even threatened with violence, who's currently detained by the Indian government, and his only crime is to ask for the right of self-determination of Kashmiris that has already been guaranteed to them by the United Nations and that India refuses to give them. So this guy is going to die in a few days. His condition is critical. He's hospitalized. He's going to die in a few days if you did not ask your government to work on trying to release him. His name is Yasin Malik. And he is a peaceful activist who has never even killed a cockroach. So please try to do something about it. Do not expect your leaders, your media to try to do something about it. They have never done anything about it. They are funded by the Indian lobbyists, and that's all they care for. That's why I'm not approaching the US government. I'm not approaching the US Congress. I'm approaching the American civilians, because you have a conscience and they don't. You have the conscience that will not allow India to continue to persecute Kashmiris, continue to blind Kashmiri children with its pellet guns, continue to inflict atrocities against the Indian Christians, against the Indian Muslims, against the Indian Dalits, against the Indian Bengalis, against the Indian Sikhs, against every non-Hindu Indian. Your conscience should not allow you to let India continue with its proxy attacks against Pakistan, inflicting terrorism, blasting of civilians, including the Pakistani Christians, including the Pakistani Hazaras. If you do not believe in religion, if you do not believe in God, if you are not a spiritual person, it's okay. You should believe in humanity. Do it for humanity. Do it because it's the right thing to do. You don't want to do it for God? Do it for humanity. Because it is the right thing to do. You want peace in this world? You want to give your children a peaceful world to live in that is free of proxy wars, that is free of the bloodshed of innocent civilians in the name of proxy war? You want to leave that legacy for them? You have to work for it. You have to get up your lazy couches and work for it. Do not expect your corrupt government, your heavily funded, sponsored governments who are sponsored by the Indian lobbyists to do it for you. They are not going to do the right thing. That is why we are seeing so much of chaos all around us. That is why your Marines, the US Marines, are still stuck, stranded in Afghanistan, giving up their lives because your government refuses to listen to the need of the hour, to what is required to have peace in the world, to what is required to have a viable future for all of us, to what is required to end this perpetual $6 trillion expensive, very expensive war that has killed so many people, that has pushed US in a perpetual cycle of violence, killing their own American people. You must tell your government to stop India now. It is very important because the other day Modi threatened with nuking the region. He said the Indian nuclear arsenal is not for playing at Diwali, which means he plans to use it soon. So, you know what? You may just not bother about it, and one day the region is going to be nuked, and this climate is going to change forever, and you'll all have to wear masks to be able to breathe, and then you're going to remember me, Dr. Fab, standing here trying to remind you to stop this fascism, to stop this neo-Nazi, Hitler-like mentality, hegemonic agenda of global domination before it's too late. You must act now. You have to stop Modi's fascism. You have to stop this RSS-funded, BJP-sponsored fascism that's plaguing India, that's spreading its darkness all over the region, that is not allowing the US to safely exit Afghanistan. India just committed a genocide of Kashmiris. India is committing genocide of its own minorities. And India is committing the genocide of the Pakistani minorities by inflicting serious, heinous acts of terrorism on Pakistan soil. Chuck Hagel said that Kulbhushan Yadav is a living testimony of Indian action, Indian covert plans that are killing Pakistani minorities every day. Kulbhushan Yadav has confessed publicly. Just Google his name. It's Jhadav. He's an Indian intelligence officer who was caught red-handed trying to plant terrorism in Pakistan and Afghanistan on the command of Indian intelligence agency. I am not making this up. This is all over the internet. This is all over YouTube. And it is very much your business because it is your Marines, your forces who are stuck in Afghanistan. It is your economy that is hemorrhaged to the point of a deadly recession. And even today, there is no guarantee that your forces are going to come back safely because India is not going to allow them to. Because India wants US to stay in Afghanistan forever so that India can continue to jeopardize the lives of the US Marines just to advance its Akhand Bharat Hindutva plan, just so that it can colonize Afghanistan, it can destabilize Pakistan with its proxy attacks, and it can convert every non-Hindu within its domain to a Hindu. When Hitler did that, you guys acted upon it and you tried to stop him, and the world saw that he was stopped. But now Modi is doing exactly the same thing as Hitler is, imposing a Holocaust on its minorities. I'm going to repeat again. The minorities in India are getting lynched. They are being burnt alive right now as I speak these words. And you talk about the Holocaust imposed by Hitler. But what about the Holocaust imposed by Modi upon the Indian minorities? Why won't you do anything about it? What about the Holocaust imposed upon the Pakistani minorities in the form of the blasts that have been sponsored by Indian government, by the Indian intelligence agency? Ajit Dawal, who is the head of the Indian intelligence agency, he publicly confessed that he has been bidding in auctions of terrorists and trying to beat the prices and buying terrorists to impose terrorist attacks in the form of proxy war in Pakistan. This is all on Google. This is all on internet. It's on YouTube. India has waged a proxy war against Pakistan. It is abusing the Afghanistan land. It is abusing US Marines. It is abusing US for its own interest because it wants to create a Hindu land from Afghanistan to Myanmar. It's like a fascist agenda. They're literally lynching people alive over there right now. It's that sick. And nobody's talking about it over here. I've been talking about it, but nobody knows anything about it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody cares about it. Yeah, but there has to be an end to it, right? You can't get peace sitting in your lazy couch, you know. You have to work for it. You have to ask your government to try to do something about it. You can't leave your forces stranded in Afghanistan forever.
I'm going to look that up once I...
Yeah, and this guy, Yasin Malik, he's stranded in the detention cell of the Indian Army. He's never even killed a cockroach. And they have detained him and he's on his deathbed. He's a peaceful political activist. His only crime is that he asked for the right of self-determination of the Kashmiris that the United Nations has given the Kashmir, that India is refusing to give the Kashmiris. So that's his only crime. He's just a peaceful political activist. And he's been detained by the Indian army and he's dying. He's going to die in a few days if someone doesn't do anything about it. So tell your government, tell your officials, call your congressmen, congresswomen, mayor, anybody, call the White House, call Trump, tell him to stop India. Tell him to release Yassin Malik. Pressurize India. Do an economic boycott. Boycott India. Do an economic boycott. Pressurize India. This is the least you can do as a civilian. And this will make a big difference. Remember the blood diamonds? How that stopped the trade of the blood diamonds? How that stopped the use of little children in excavating the diamonds from Africa? When the world boycotted the blood diamonds, remember what happened? People stopped buying these diamonds. And that made a big difference. That stopped this trade. So if you boycott India, if you boycott Indian products and ask your government to sanction India, it will pressurize them enough to give Kashmiris the right of self-determination that United Nations has given them. And it will also force them to stop their proxy attacks on the minorities and stop the hate crimes against their own minorities.
Maybe you are better off on the phone calling the senators and the government because these people do not care about 9/11.
I know, but if we speak together, united in one voice, they'll have to listen to us.
Not even 9/11.
This is a democracy.
Not even 9/11.
We have to try. We can't just...
No, I mean, like, you should get on the phone because they don't even care about 9/11.
I will get on the phone. I've been on the phone, but they're not interested. They're heavily funded by the Indian lobbyists. They're corrupt, they're bribed, they're sponsored, the media is sponsored. Nobody knows about this as a result of this. But at the end of the day, your economy is still hemorrhaging. You've lost trillions of dollars and you're losing your Marines in Afghanistan. And the world is becoming more and more unsafe.
No, I mean, you have an accent and they don't care about 9/11. You should get on the phone.
But you should too.
Absolutely. Now, there's more.
Promise me.
I will.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'm going to request all of you to kindly try to do something about it, to kindly do an economic boycott, to put economic pressure on India, to sanction India, to ask your government to sanction India, to pass a bill in the US Congress that will pressurize the Indian government to release Yassin Malik, that will pressurize the Indian government to give the Kashmiris their right of self-determination, that will pressurize the Indian government to end the Holocaust that's imposed upon the Indian minorities in India, and that will put pressure upon the Indian government to end its proxy attacks against Pakistan, and that will stop and put a pressure on the Indian government to stop abusing the US Marine, the US intelligence, the Afghanistan soil as its proxy ground against Pakistan to have a Hindu land from Afghanistan to Myanmar. India wants to colonize. India has an imperialistic agenda of global domination. It wants to become the next superpower. It technically wants to take your place as the superpower. So you know what's coming next. What's coming next is what happened in the World War II. What Hitler tried to do to the rest of the world. Attack and conquer. Kill the weak. Lynch the weak. Impose a Holocaust on the weak. No humanity. Nothing. Just aggression. Just a vicious cycle of violence. It has to be stopped. Don't tell me you can't do anything about it. You are powerful. You live in a democracy. This is not a tyranny. You're one of the most biggest and strongest democracies of the world. You have the power to convince your government to end Indian aggression, to stop its proxy war that's committing the genocide of Pakistani Christians, of Pakistani Hazaras, of Afghans, of Kashmiris, of Indian minorities. Someone has to do something about it somewhere. Otherwise, we won't have a viable earth, because the other day, Modi threatened to nuke the region. He actually said that his nuclear bombs are not for Diwali, that he has every plan to use them. So he's already threatened. So what's next? You know what happens after he threatens? He threatened to attack Pakistan, and the next thing we know is that the world was on the verge of a pro-apocalyptic nuclear World War III that was stopped because Pakistan played in the de-escalation mode, because Pakistan chose peace over war, because Pakistan thought better, that it's better to try to continue to send olive branches to India, to try to continue to support peace against aggression for the sake of the rest of the world. Because think about it, all it will take is one nuclear attack in the world, anywhere in the world, to totally destroy this air for you. You'll all have to wear masks. And this is the legacy you're going to leave your children with. They're going to be so disgusted with you. They're going to look back at you 10 years from now and they're going to say, Mom and Dad, when Modi was threatening with nuclear attacks, what were you doing? Sitting in your lazy couches expecting peace to be delivered to you by your corrupt government? Seriously? Your children are going to be disgusted with you, mark my words. I can write it on the stamp paper. Your children are going to be disgusted with you 10 years from now, because you didn't do anything about it right now, this moment. You didn't stop a madman like Modi from advancing his hegemonic, fascist, fanatic agenda from Afghanistan to Myanmar that is killing everybody who's not a Hindu. And that even includes the US Marines. That includes your own citizens who are the victims of this genocide too. The genocide of India, the proxy attacks of India against everybody who's a non-Hindu. So, this is all I have to say, and I hope it makes sense to you, because I really like the air we breathe right now. I don't want to wear a mask, and I know you don't want your kids to wear a mask one day, or you don't want to buy the oxygen for yourself like they had to in China at one time when the smog was too thick. If you want clean air, if you want peaceful future, please stop a madman from destroying this world in Southeast Asia who wants a Hindu land from Afghanistan to Pakistan to Kashmir to India to Myanmar. You gotta stop him. You gotta do something about it. If nothing else, you can do economic boycott of India. You can stop buying Indian products. You can stop doing trade with India. When the blood diamonds happened, the boycott really helped, and the slave trade of little children stopped. So if you did an economic boycott and pressurize the Indian government, they will also release Yasin Malik, who's a peaceful political activist. They will stop doing their proxy attacks against the Pakistani Christian minorities, against the Pakistani Hazaras, against the Afghans, and against They will stop doing hate crimes against their own minorities, and Modi will not be allowed to pass the bill next year that will make all non-Hindus of India non-citizens, forcing all non-Hindus to convert to Hinduism. You gotta act right now. People are dying. People are getting burnt alive. People are getting blasted off, including your own US Marines stranded in Afghanistan. And you're hemorrhaging money. $6 trillion worth of money has been lost. You've suffered from one of the worst recessions. And if you're still not going to do anything about it to end this war, Modi just threatened with a nuclear attack. So what's next? When are you going to act? When this air is too thick and poisoned that we have to use a mask to be able to breathe from the nuclear attack that Modi does against Pakistan? Don't be relaxed that you are at the other end of the world, so it's not going to affect you. Just listen to the experts. The nuclear attack by Modi, even if it's done in Southeast Asia, is going to destroy the environment, it's going to destroy the climate, and you won't be able to grow anything for years. There will be serious food insecurity. You won't be able to breathe this air. And the world will be irradiated. There'll be radioactivity in the sea all the way to US. It will be impossible for you to survive on Earth. And guess what? What else Modi has done? What else India has done? India just busted a satellite in space with its missile that almost destroyed the space station. This was against NASA's advice. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Modi won't stop at anything because he's following a fascist agenda. This is very similar to what happened in the 1945 when neo-Nazi Hitler tried to dominate the globe on the basis of a fascist neo-Nazi agenda. This is like reliving history. The only problem is that no one is trying to stop Modi from US, and actually the US government is collaborating with Modi at the cost of US economy, at the cost of the lives of US Marines who are currently stranded in Afghanistan in a war that will last forever if Modi is allowed to do his own thing. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.